did I steal from? Price tags on making the world feel some. They don't have enough to satisfy a real one.
Logical Raptors Fanatic.
Shoot trying to miss. Like every shot.
Logical Raptors Fanatic.
Try to make it, so I was not surprised.
A fun guy. Obviously,
Logical Raptors Fanatic.
love the game of basketball. I mean, it's just more question you have to ask me in order for me to tell you about.
Logical Raptors Fanatic.
I just can't give you a whole spiel. I don't even know where you're sitting at.
No
Project Truth.
has contacted me, and I see all the stuff that you guys see, you know. Yeah, so they keep dreaming. I dream too.
Salute, real ones. Project Truth always. Mike G back here with Logical Raptors Fanatic. Had some time this week. We got a really great Project Truth episode this week, tackling the tanking myth and the Tampa tank and all the things surrounding Tampa and this phrase that has kind of populated the Raptors fan base, playing for what? And it's this kind of concept where it enables fans to not take onus of losing and not have to really understand why we're losing because we think we're losing on purpose, which is not the case because Masai was very specific on the parameters of tanking and why he tanked in Tampa. There's a lot of really great truths from the post-year press conference. We're going to go through a bunch of concepts. We're going to go through a bunch of truths. And it's all centered around the play-in and the fact that we might be in the play-in for the first time ever. It's definitely a good point to kind of set the record straight on all the previous talk about the play-in before now. And kind of put our finger on the real Project Truth words of Masai and go to the real quote and not just the memory, because even my memory kind of warped it into something a little bit different than what it was. So I think this is just a good exercise for every fan to lock in on the idea of what it takes for Masai to choose tanking and the issues that we faced in Tampa. And a lot of things are the same, kind of same follow through in a sense of messaging and whatnot. But then there's also certain things that even would be I would call similar to Tampa and this year 2022-23 season, right? Where we might make the play in. And definitely point out the differences between Tampa and this season and how Tampa was worse and the still good vibes that Masai was putting out as a leader and go into his love of the Raptors a bit too, because I think this press conference definitely shine a light on a lot of different subjects regarding the Raptors and behind the scene things. And it's going to be good to kind of really relive some of this stuff without the play on court pain being so very vivid and very kind of emotional, like tilting to the words. And now we have clear hindsight, almost exactly 2 years to the day of the trade deadline where he was kind of first asked about the play-in. I'm sure there were other points where he was asked about the play-in, but I think it's good to snapshot that March 15th with the May 19th where the play-in for what message was said. And we're going to go into it now. This one's going to be a great one. Definitely enjoy this one. This one's for the real ones.
Hi, Masai. It's great to see your face.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Um, given like this is the first year that there is the play-in tournament, like the that 7 to 10 spot, like how big a factor did that play into any decisions that you made here at the deadline? Like you mentioned adding to the existing core, so.
Hey, we believe anytime we step on that court that we can win. Yeah, that's just how we are, and that's how we play, and that's how we want to be. Like so. However, they diagram that tournament, like we'll try to figure it out if we get there, and if we don't get there, then we'll get down the other side too. We'll play in the other little tournament on the other side.
So clearly you can feel the mood around the question. It was just a playful kind of question. Masai kind of hinted at it. It wasn't that big of a deal, right? But it definitely got blown up in the next presser. And even to the point now, we're speaking about it 2 years later. And this was kind of the trade deadline presser of 2023. 2 years almost, because the seasons were shifted off, and we'll get into that. But listen to this sort of reaction to the question.
The plane at that time was the plane, and this time I'll make my comments on the plane if we are in the plane or at the end of the season. But for that time, that was the situation we were in, and I didn't see, I didn't see why we should, like strive for that with that tough situation in Tampa at all.
So clearly, we're going to talk on all the tough situation issues, and we're going to go through the challenges of Tampa in Masai's eyes, what he saw as the true challenges in Tampa. And there's a lot of current kind of stuff in the mix too. So we're going to start getting into it. So obviously, I want to set the table first on how the Raptors feel about NBA team building in general, because tanking to tanking for picks is a certain strategy, but is it congruent with our main strategy? And I think setting the table and kind of laying out exactly how Masai feels about the ups and downs of team progression and where the advantages are, kind of let Masai kind of unload a little bit here, right?
You've said that you want this organization to be one that is always on top of where the league is going, doesn't want to be reacting. The way offensive efficiency has gone up the last few years, has that impacted your view at all on how to build a team, like looking ahead to the draft and free agency?
Yes, we consider everything, on our team, and that those are the conversations that we have with Nick Nurse and Bobby. I think Nick is one of the most innovative, evolving coaches in the league, and I know I'm biased to my coach, but to our coach, but I think he's shown that he is, willing and to try anything. Listen, this is a copycat league, and we're not trying to be copycat. Like that's you form on your own, and you go into it. You try things and you go into it. You might fail, you might succeed, but you keep trying. The goal is to win. We play this sport to win, to compete and to win. And I think our organization is going to do everything, to put us in position there to win.
So, on the base of what Masai said there, pretty much when you're not being a copycat in this league, there will be moments of failure and success, but it's truly about just continuously trying to win and understanding that it's all about like winning a championship versus just feeling good winning a series or something like that. That's not the ceiling that we're aiming for, right? So when we're doing this kind of build it on our own kind of thing where he's in that clip of what he said there, it's in part we have to kind of actually test things out for real to find out whether certain ideas are good ideas or bad ideas. And he's saying we have the right coach to kind of do this, and we're taking advantage of the things that we do well and the things that we fail at, and maybe we can tweak and fix, or it is just not something that we can rely on, right? So obviously there are certain levels in failure when you're dealing with this sort of trailblazing aspect. Just because we have a down year based on the team progression and where they're at and kind of the league adjusting to our new kind of setups and different things that we're doing doesn't mean that it's time to tank and trade everyone away for picks. There's a process to this. There is a point, yes, where that becomes an option and becomes what you should probably do, but we're not at that point. Masai hasn't signaled anything like that we're at this point, and he believes still in these guys that they can make a good team, and it's about our younger guys coming in and really developing and then pushing that ceiling up of the regular core team that we have, right? Like our last championship team. So it isn't just about talent, it's also about this team progression and allowing the team to progress properly. Because we're going to get into a lot of dynamics of what Masai felt they deserved that season, because there is a question that pops up. Do the guys deserve to really battle and fight out in Tampa, even though the season hasn't gone too well? But I think it's really great to kind of tackle the elephant in the room, the biggest elephant in the room, which is the playing for what kind of tidbit. Well, it's a focusing of a bigger thought. They try to encapsulate a catchy catchphrase to kind of a catch on the phrase in a sense where it doesn't actually reflect the actual words that Masai said. And you're going to understand the question wasn't even on the plane and stuff. It was about what his demands are of the organization in his new contract. And he goes into this kind of this whole idea of what it means to be an organization that wants to be the best. So let's actually take in his real words, and I have like the actual quote and the paragraph where the words playing for what are said, but take in the context of what he's talking about and this whole thing. He will clarify a little bit later. We'll get into it because the way that this playing for what kind of statement was encapsulated, a reporter then after asked later and asked the question playing for what and wanted him to explain the thought. But it was never just playing for what was the thought. Like we could see here on my thumbnail main slide page here, we see myth playing for what is like a catchy quote phrase. But the truth is, what was said before playing for what, not playing in the play-in, not playing in the playoffs. So it's not just the play-in. He was lumping the playoffs in there too as well. You want to win a championship. So what he's saying is we don't just want to make it to Eastern Conference and that's the success we're aiming for. We're not looking for a first round victory in the playoffs. We're not looking to just make the playoffs. We're not just looking to make the play-in. What is your intention behind the actions of being in the play-in? What are the gains that you're gaining from the play-in? He didn't feel the gains were good enough in Tampa to continue on and push for that play-in because we didn't have the younger core set. You're going to hear the word misfit used by Masai in describing some of the roster issues that year, and he takes full onus of that. But misfits and stuff, that doesn't sound like like guys you really want to invest in by pushing into the playoffs and getting them experience if you don't even know if they're going to be here a year or two. So there was a huge fluctuation in that season. Plus, on top of the COVID restrictions and the whole, there's so many factors that went into the decision for tanking that weren't even just on court stuff. So let's get into it, but start off with the precipice and the real context of what Masai said, playing for what. So let's hear it out.
You mentioned your family and when you, as a important consideration, when you do sit down and talk with Larry and the board, what are your priorities? What are you looking for in terms of what you do from going forward?
Everybody says, like blank check, but yeah, I'm not as much, like focused on blank check, other than a lot of the things that we've done here. We have to move forward as a franchise to compete with the best in the NBA. This is all about winning a championship again. Yeah. Let me tell you something, guys. Everybody has forgotten what has happened here 2 years ago. Okay, yes, we won. Nobody cares anymore. Okay, we want to win another one. That's what you want to do. Yeah, you want to prepare yourself to win another one. Not playing the playing game, not playing the playoffs. You want to win a championship. Everybody's like, why won't you get in the plane? Playing for what? We want to win a championship here. And we have to put ourselves in position. So a lot of the things that we did, whether it's build a practice facility, whether it's get everybody to see us hosting an all-star game like we did, or getting a G League team, or I got an incredible staff that they've allowed me to hire here, from front office to coaches to medical. I want to know, we have Drake, ambassador, that has been incredible to us, has lifted us. Yeah, so what's the next lift? Yeah, what's the next 5 years? What's the next 10 years? What are we doing to put ourselves in conversation with all the great teams and all the winners? That's what we want to do. And that's the conversation I'm going to have with them. And yes, I'm going to have asks. I'm going to have a lot of things that I think, that we need to put forward here to address these things. And I think ownership is open, to hear this. So in terms of that conversation, yeah, that's going to be had. In terms of me and my family, listen, I have a lot of interest in this world, but I'm not naive to not to understand that sports is an incredible platform. My position is an incredible platform, that to talk about a lot of the things I want to do, a lot of the things that I'm interested in, and we'll go from there. So there are a lot of options, that I have to consider. But yes, to your question, there are a lot of things that we're going to really talk about here moving forward, and how we make this organization even bigger.
Like, honestly, out of all that was said there, how do you take like the one littlest part that was more of like him being cheeky and like take that as the main part of the whole message of what he said there? He said a lot of great things, and it was very little to do about the play-in in the context of the play-in itself, right? You could see here. Let's read the real quote that emboxes this playing for what quote that people have zoomed in on and dropped all the context of what was actually being said at that moment, right? So everybody has forgotten what has happened here 2 years ago. Okay, yes, we won. Nobody cares anymore. Okay, we want to prepare yourself to win another one. Not playing the play-in game, not playing the playoffs. You want to win a championship. Everybody's like, why don't you get in the play-in? Play-in for what? We want to win a championship here. And that was said by Masai Ujiri, May 19th, 2021 exit interview for the season. And it wasn't even on the question, what do you think of the play-in? And I'm going to show the instant that this sentiment, playing for what, was encapsulated, because the next sound clip you're going to hear is a reporter asking about playing for what out of all that he said there. And that's why he's laughing 2 years later, because it was very clear from the first time he said it and how he said it what he meant by playing for what. But it's 2 years later, still dragging on, and people bring it up like this mantra shield to tank now, when it would. It's we're not even. Tampa was a completely different situation, and we're gonna hear Masai use the word challenges in his explanation for what he meant by playing for what and deciding whether to go for it or not, and the real actual logistics of the decision, and not trying to take one thing out of a whole paragraph that had nothing to do with the play-in and just gleam onto that one thought. It does somewhat have to do with playing for what, and it's kind of on the right direction, but watch Masai clarify when the reporter asks about playing for what. So let's take a listen.
You just mentioned you said play in for what? Does that mean that you didn't have you never really wanted to push for the play in tournament at all? And is that the reason why like Kyle perhaps only played like 9 of the last game, like only 9 games like after the trade deadline?
No, it's not really. You have to weigh your options, right? And why the place with our team, is what's a better place to be? It's things that we have to look at as a front office. Do we play our young guys, develop them, use the experience of Fred and Kyle and these guys to help them grow a little bit? And
so let me pause it right here for a second. Take in the word he just said. The young guys might grow a bit. A bit. Like there are factors of what growth is better in a sense, right? If you're winning and in the playoffs, developing players in that kind of environment is way more productive than tanking and playing your guys out that way. They might grow a bit, but they won't make the jumps that we actually need them to. So let's continue on.
Do we play our young guys, develop them, use the experience of Fred and Kyle and these guys to help them grow a little bit and give yourself a better chance to get a higher pick, because obviously these young guys are going to play against better teams or better competition, and they're not going to win a lot of these games. What's the value of that, picking in the top 10 versus picking further out if you played in a playing game? I have to weigh that, sometimes people don't want to talk about it, because that word, nobody wants to use. Yeah, I don't look at it like that. I look at it as this was a 1-year situation where we were faced with lots of challenges and moments where we had to adjust on the fly, and that's not easy to do, and is it the right thing to do to adjust on the fly? I don't know that we could have come with a plan, we came with a plan from day one, but we had to be able to adjust, were some of our adjustments the right adjustments? We tried, and I know the players tried and everybody tried. So, we just have to weigh the options of which option sometimes is better than the other.
So obviously you could see that he was trying to express the decision isn't easy. There are a lot of factors involved in adjusting and whether to adjust in season to different things, whether it's right or wrong. And he battles with things like that, and that's okay because GMs need to do that. They need to kind of weigh options and not be so quick on different things and have clear hindsight from weighing an option over time and really sussing out different avenues of how things would look or are going to look. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of different things. But if we want to zoom in on exactly the reason why he tanked in Tampa, let's take careful notice of this quote. I feel encapsulates what should have been the real kind of connection between playing for what and not this tanking to be a championship team, because that's not what he said. He said something very different. So let's take a look at that now. So that word, like nobody wants to use, tank, and I'll say it. Yeah, I don't look at it like that. I look at it as if this was a 1 year situation where we faced a lot of challenges and moments where we had to adjust on the fly. And that's not easy to do, like, is it the right thing to adjust on the fly? I don't know that we could have come with a plan, like we came with a plan from day one, but we had to be able to adjust. Like, well, some of our adjustments, the right adjustments we tried. So he's asking, like, the question afterwards, you have to look at things and diagnose things, whether it was the right decision to do it or not. And clearly it was from getting Scotty. So he announces it as a winning move for the situation we are in and having to adjust on the fly, right? But let's actually look back at Tampa and relive some of the issues. But look at the season through a more clear lens. And I swear, you'll come out thinking a little bit different of the season than you previously did. There's a lot of great insights in this whole kind of presser, not just this dumb one phrase, playing for what, but he was dropping knowledge, and it all kind of contexts into the same kind of picture of what he was trying to convey in that exit presser after the Tampa year, which was beyond like one of the lowest points with that we've been to. And he speaks on all these type of things. So let's hear Masai's words of what he thinks were the challenges and the moments where we had to adjust on the fly. So let's move into more of the issues regarding Tampa and move away from the play in a little bit for now, but we will come back and draw on it because this year has some certain similarities. So keep in mind that when you're listening to Masai this year and pick out the things that kind of are the same but are different, and you can understand the context of tanking more and what Masai feels when it's the right time to do it, because we have two different scenarios, similar in ways but different in ways. So one was decide to go for the tank and one is decide to go for the play-in. So what are the different factors involved in that? And this is what I wanted to kind of dive into a little bit deeper, find the truths and the myths coming out of Tampa, because I know a lot of people tuned out. It was hard to watch, but I know a large swath of real ones continued to still watch the team through those tough times. And I was kind of one of those people that still kept up on the media stuff. And I wanted to figure out what was going on with the team because I actually really care about this team. And I love this team. And you're going to hear from Masai later how much he loves being a Raptor and what this team really means to him. And you know that the words he said here are truth. Like, all the things that he ever says is just all like pretty much truth. and he's ready to take responsibility. So let's hear him take responsibility for the start of the season, and the roster issues obviously got us off to a bad foot right away.
In terms of this past season, you mentioned how the bad start might have been on the front office and on you. Is there anything you wish you acted on more quickly?
No, not really. You know, after we played in the bubble, one of the things we talked about was how small, you know, like we played at the end there. You know, like, and the success we had with playing small. You know, like, so. I think on my part, I failed to see, you know, that what we were looking for, that maybe the type of bigs, you know, like we were looking for should have maybe like been a different type of player, and that's on me. But in terms of recovering, you know, the displacement, the hard start, you know, I don't want to blame that too much because basketball is basketball. I did put them in a tough position, and I take ownership of that.
So we heard there Masai talking about his decisions to get Aaron Baines and Alex Lynn and have Boucher as the center position after Serge and Ibaka left. There was in part thinking that we could use the strength of small ball based on the way we played Boston, right? So if we think back to that series, Gasol and Ibaka were unusable completely in that series. And we had to go small. We had to play small because we weren't able to play with Ibaka and Gasol in the mix as well. And we did do well against a fairly decent, experienced Boston team that had the same amount of experience as us. So it was like a decent benchmark, but we know how the bubble and Pascal, and if he was fully up to speed, like in rhythm, based on not touching a basketball in 3 months and the crazy lockdown rules that were engaged in Ontario and having no place to bounce a basketball, it obviously took a toll on his psyche and stuff. But let's get back to what he was saying, where he put the team in a bad position off the start. So we could see here, obviously, December was a losing month, right? And let's take in the fact that the season started on December 23rd. So not October 18th or 19th or 17th like this year, right? So a full month was completely cut out, a full month and a week. So 5 weeks of the normal calendar season was pushed in completely. So now look at how the cluster of these games were. Remember how it was like 3 games in 4 or nights and all this kind of look at this stuff. Look at this stuff, man. Like, oh my God, this was crazy. And then at some point we weren't able to roster, like we were down to literally like 8 guys at one point, and we had to get the fill-ins and all this kind of craziness was going on, right? So let's hear out Masai, what he feels like after we kind of hit our stride after the rough start. Because he definitely, I love an owner that can, or sorry, a leader that can take ownership of his decisions and know when he's made an error and not put it on other people because he's scared to lose his job or he has an ego or something. Masai doesn't give two hoots about anyone's ego or anything. If you're about winning, he's about you. You know what I mean? So let's get into the next clip here and check out how Masai feels how the season progressed more further into it.
How much did the whole weirdness of this season factor into today? Like being relocated, not knowing what your team is because it hasn't been together and it's living in Tampa and it's living through the pandemic. How much did the strangeness of the season factor into your decisions?
Yeah, Doug, there's a lot of it that really factored into what we do, and by this I mean um, this team has persevered. Like this team has endured, and these guys, from the players, coaches, everybody has fought. Being displaced here, we went through the the health and safety protocols, like we all know what that meant or what that means. And it's not the easiest thing to go through. It's been a very challenging year, but I respect what these guys do and what our organization has done, because there's no complaining. Like, it's go out and play. We've played all road games basically, being displaced, and it's a challenge, Doug. People have families. People have many things they have to think about, in situations like this. And how does that factor into us? Well, you see it. You saw our start, you saw the middle, and you saw where we are now. And how do you judge a team from that? I saw a couple of weeks where we said we were, like, oh, the Raptors are back. Like, they're back to competing and being, and then all of a sudden, like, you see the air gets taken away from you. You don't have 3 or 4 of your guys, and it's difficult, like, so very, 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 very challenging, honestly. But our jobs is to come and keep working, players keep playing, coaches keep coaching, and try to win on and off the court. This is why we're put in this position, and to be honest, we're blessed to be in the NBA.
At some point, do you think you owed this group a chance to play the rest of the year together, given what it's gone through to this point?
Yes, they fight. They fight together, and you see they like to play together. And yeah, there's been ups and downs. You guys have seen it, and there's been the challenges. But at the end of the day, when you come into that locker room with these guys, and I see Kyle and Fred and OG and Pascal and all of them, really come together, and what they want to do, the experience they have had together. Of winning, we're lucky, we're blessed that we've been a winning organization, and hopefully we can continue that way in some way or the other, and have a good vision for this ball club to continue that. And there might be stops along the way and adversity along the way, but I think the overall culture, we need to keep going, and these players are a big and huge part of it.
He had a lot of different insights on the Tampa season, and he kind of put his thumb on a couple of different thoughts in that kind of clip there. I'm gonna kind of bring back a certain section of it to show how much similarities, but at a certain point in that conversation, it sounded like he was talking about this season, when he started saying when you're missing 3 or 4 guys, it starts to get harder. And he's talking about the extra added off court stuff that was happening in Tampa that also pushed his decision and direction later in that season, in mainly May, because we were winning games still in April, and April was a winning month. And then finally we saw the writing on the wall, and we kind of just did what we did for the last kind of month. But you could see here, we weren't actually tanking for. We started off bad, yes, December, January. He took ownership, the center thing. We finally got the centers. We started to see a recovery, and then the COVID thing hit. The 13 in 1 month, right? Where went 1-13, sorry. And you could see what happened here. And he was saying at this point, people were saying, oh, the Raptors are back finally, because they saw the hole filled. Kem was able to play well enough for us to be able to play a solid enough defensive rotation to get wins or be close enough to get wins. But then obviously missing half the team, half the coaching staff, like everyone went out in March pretty much. And we got no games canceled because we had less guys. We always had to like kind of play. I didn't understand like we were always on the limit of how many guys that you needed to play. So we never got any reprieve from the COVID stuff, and we had to take it all on the chin, like hard on the chin, right? And people that were watching at that point knew, right? But then after COVID, guys came back, right? But then Spicy had the injury in the last 2 weeks of the season, so like that also weighs in things too. Spicy gets an injury late, and like we're trying to conserve Lowry to make sure he's still available for value in the summer to get something. And Precious, obviously bringing in a center prospect like Precious, enabled us to springboard in the next season in our return to Toronto season into the playoffs. And then obviously this year with Precious, he's been out like pretty much half the first half, pretty much like 24 games we saw in our first half issues video. So like there are similarities, but let's key in on some of the more differences about Tampa and just any other season in that matter, right?
You're a young guy still, but when you write your memoir or your maybe autobiography in a few years, what about this Tampa experience on the heels of the bubble experience are going to stick out to you, might jump out as things you got to write down right away?
The Tampa experience was remarkable. When we talk about adversity, it's just the displacement and how you have to react to things, and that reaction gets you to do things sometimes not at a high level. Let's talk about displacement. This is not Dadaab. This is not a refugee camp in Kenya or in Syria or in any of these places. This is where we had our practice facility in a hotel. We almost built the same thing. We basically built OVO. The people in Tampa were incredible. There's no hospitality or no welcome that we're going to get that's better than this. In fact, I say when you look at some of these experiences that we have, it's afterwards that it's most even impactful for us. And when I look at the bubble, we all complain about the bubble and the confinement and how it was there. The bubble was amazing. It was that experience there. I'd do it again, like to be part of that. It was incredible for me. Yeah, so this Tampa, as we got on and as we got through the whole experience, we enjoyed it. We started to enjoy it. We started to feel it, and it's the things that happen to you the first time, or you don't know how to adjust, or you don't know which way to go, or that's the part that's tough, and then relating it to home, and then relating it to what others are doing and the disadvantages. I'll give you an example. Coming to a game and seeing everybody support another team, that's never been done in Toronto. I don't care who's coming into Toronto. I can care less what team it is. When you come here, you feel it. Everybody has seen it. Everybody knows, so when you go to a game there and people come to support other teams, I know it's not a basketball town, but it's hard to understand. Yeah, so I would talk about that experience as a great experience for a long time in that sense, of welcoming, and it's definitely not displacement that many people have experienced all over the world.
So wow, a definitely powerful statement about displacement and his great. I love a leader that can really tie bigger thoughts to different things and really expand the concept of different ideas. And the word of displacement and what happened of that year is completely unique and only in that one season. And it's incredible how we kind of pave over that fact that Tampa was such a crazy bizarre situation where we had arenas with other people's fans like coming to our games as home games, literally playing every game as a road game. It it could break people if you're really pumping the tires and saying we're going for it, and it kind of doesn't work out. Maybe that takes a hit to their confidence, seriously, like, because I think DeMar, we've seen that previously with a guy that kind of took a couple of really hard hits, and it did something to his confidence a little bit. But we're obviously the sports psychology and psychology of players. Masai is really on the ball with that kind of stuff and really knowledgeable about different sort of ideas. And we could see there how he expresses it by just including the fact that he understands that the displacement wasn't like a refugee camp in Dada, or you know what I mean, like some crazy like stuff happening, people losing lives and stuff, but there was a difficultness to the situation that is completely unique to this season, and pushing for it with our like hotel ballroom like gym and all this kind of different stuff going on, people's families not there to support them properly, and the kind of regularity that we like to build and the routine that we build over at OVO wasn't there. And let's not talk about no 905 that year, because 905 is clearly a massive piece of development. A lot of different play style ideas evolved from testing them in 905. We use it as an experimentation ground. And Nick Nurse has commented on that fact before. But obviously, I don't want to push too far into the next kind of, because I have to part this. Obviously, this one's there's a lot. I have a lot more clips, a lot more truth coming, and I'm gonna tie it more to the next year. But I want everyone to leave off everyone with a great thing that he said within this kind of presser that really encapsulates Masai's commitment to what he's saying when he's saying, I want to win another one here. And him even saying, I want to win one here the first time and then doing it, right? So let's take that into effect a little bit too, right?
Variation of that, to be honest, but just how, with your future kind of uncertain, did that play an impact on what you did or didn't do today at all?
Nah, no impact, nothing. You know, like, hey, this is my job. I'm a Raptor. This is, love this team, love everything about this organization, you know, and we will visit at the end of the season, and I think that's fair on every side. But I've never ever for once thought, you know, going into a day like this, I think about what I'm doing or myself. It's not the way like these things work. It's not the way I was raised. It's not the way I look at things at all. You know, this Raptors. It doesn't matter what happens. Raptors is inside here. Yeah, it's in the blood. This is what we live. This is what we do. You know, and I love doing it. I love it to death. And today, it's part of the spirit. It's part of everything we are. You lose some, you win some. You're going to, you know, gain some sometimes. Sometimes you're going to gain ground. Sometimes you're going to lose ground. But at the end of the day, I know this organization is a winning organization, and it's a winning culture we want to build.
So obviously a really powerful statement there by Masai on what it means to be a Raptor to him, right? He's saying it's in his blood, it's in the heart. And building a winning culture and stuff really means a lot to him. So tanking because of this or that reason that's really against a lot of what he himself is and what he's kind of promoted as what he wants the Raptors to be, right? So we need to take in mind of the bigger idea of things sometimes before kind of knee jerking at different emotional triggers of different results. We have to be a little bit more logical and sense what this thing is really truly about in the sense of how we run things on the deepest levels. And Masai is kind of the lightning rod to all the, well, not all, but a lot of the ideas that have really made us into a really great winning team. We're going to hear him comment about that in the next part 2 of this. But it's, you got to love a guy that just, he's so a Raptors guy. Like, even in that contract fluctuation, you can hear the like the commitment in his voice of how he wants the Raptors to always be with everybody. Like, it starts with the leader. Like, he's saying these decisions today weren't about me in any way whatsoever. This is just part of my job in a sense. And that's what he wants everyone else in the organization to be like. These decisions that I'm making aren't based on me. They have to be based on the team and what the team needs and building that winning culture to win Larry O'Brien's. And sometimes there are kind of missteps, like he was saying at the end there, but ultimately it's about building that winning culture over the long run that enables you to succeed and overachieve and win the Larry O'Brien trophy like we did last time in 2019. So always keep that in mind with every season. And you could hear it after Tampa. He's talking about championships and still on this winning culture thing. This season didn't deter the plan, right? He's been this way since day one. And like a rocky season, even Tampa was way more rocky than this current season 2022, 2023, right? And he hasn't pushed the tank button because he understands what the aim is and what we need to do to get to that next championship. And playoff experience for our younger guys like Precious, Scotty, Koloko, maybe some Banton. We see there Gary Trent definitely needs some more solid minutes, right? Get Pascal some more playoff minutes as the guy. Freddie, more play like PG role in the playoffs. Like, we need to escalate the plan with these roles and see where we need to start shoring up to be this team that pays into the luxury, and we're going to talk about that. He has a couple thoughts on that luxury tax piece in part 2. The money always needs to come up, but definitely want to leave this one off as a positive note that Masai is so committed to winning Larry O'Brien's again, and he doesn't take these decisions lightly, and he's very methodical, and there are a lot of elements that go into every decision he makes. There's a lot of input from a lot of people in the organization, and we just have to trust that he understands what he needs to do to get this team to where we all want this team to be, and especially the real ones that have been riding every bump in the roller coaster and just really keeping the faith and understanding this isn't just a 1 year thing. It's about 5 year plan, 10-year plan. It's about making progress over a number of years, not just over 1 year. And if we have a setback, then blowing it completely up, like people are saying. He explains things so clearly. You just have to like kind of listen. It's a bit hard sometimes because you have to understand the context and in what he's talking about. And I can clarify that a bit more, and hopefully people understand the playing for what, and that thing's dead as a doornail, doornail, a doorknob. But yes, housekeeping. Want to start off housekeeping with saluting and thanking the real ones for the likes, the comments, the subs, feedback. All of this kind of stuff is so great for my channel and really helps me with my processing of different things, and really even helps me in life, just helping me understand the way I sound and different things like that. So I really enjoy the feedback and the support, and I can't believe how far we've come in a sense, right? Just even this season here. But always want to salute Raptors Freak Nation and Raptors Freak Lex, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, every single day. He's talking on the Raptors and really knowledgeable stuff. It's such a great time, and then obviously Lex is such a great guy, and I totally believe in him, and he believes in me. So definitely some great synergy action there, right? And then obviously Grubstown Clink, some great stuff from Greg over there. A lot of great Project Truth stuff. And this episode of this whatever Logical Raptors Fanatic was dedicated to Project Truth and dedicated to the real ones that have known that the play-in for what has kind of not been totally accurate to what was said that year. And obviously, I'm sorry about the background noises during the clips. I didn't realize the mic records during when I'm recording clips. So obviously developing that out a bit more, learning through the sound levels, and now that I'm better at trimming the product, now checking sound levels, getting all things appropriate, maybe incorporating more clips and different things. We're developing here, like Lex and Greg and stuff, and like the real ones out there. So I just want to let you guys, the real ones, know that have been speaking the facts for time. I'm here. I hear you. I'm here to support you and salute the real ones. Project Truth always. Logical Raptors Fanatic out. Mike G. Mike G.
Oh man, I love my team, man, I love my team. I would die for them.
Not just cause I want to, cause I got to. Put the squad on your back, did the impossible. It's only logical, it's fitted from the heart.